What's up, guys? My name is Sam Griffin. I'm a classical guitar player. I tour and I have a bunch of stuff on YouTube. I've made a living from playing arrangements on YouTube for a long time, and I'm obsessed with arranging and technique. So today we're going to talk about the 3 types of practice that you can do. We want to not get these confused, okay? Because depending on what you're trying to accomplish, it's important that you do the right type of practice. The first type is mapping. I'm going to call it mapping, which I think of as basically anytime you're learning something. You don't know a piece of music and then you learn the piece of music. You're taking your technical skill and you're mapping out what your fingers need to do, the series of motions that they need to do to play the romance or to play the Villalobos or whatever, okay? Now, the second type is capacity or technique. Now, technique is what your fingers are actually capable of doing. So if you learn a piece of music and the piece of music says you have to go boop, 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 not only do you have to learn that little chunk of the music, but your fingers have to be able to do it. So when you tell your fingers, hey, do that, and that, it can actually do the thing. Like when somebody says, oh, that guy's really good at guitar, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the capacity. Not that a particular person can play a certain song, but they have the capacity to move their fingers in the way that they want. They have the capacity to execute the plan, walk the path. It's like if mapping is like cutting your way through, the jungle, creating this path, right? Technique or capacity is your ability to actually walk that path without falling over. Okay, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go this way and I can smoothly step over vines and stuff. Versus if you learn a piece of music, you map it out, you try to walk that path and you're stumbling, vines are smacking you in the face, there's a snake, you get bit by the snake, you go to the hospital, you die. That's what it's like to have bad technique. So that's capacity and technique. Now the third main category I'm gonna call reliability. And this is really what you do when you're trying to prepare for a performance. So like right now, I have to go on tour in about a week, and I'm freaking out a little bit because I don't feel quite ready for it. That type of practice is you've learned the pieces of music, your technique is sufficient that you're actually able to do the thing, but you might not be at the place where you can do it under pressure, where you can perform a full 40-minute set of music and not have tension and not have nerves completely shatter everything and not have memory slips as well. Memory is another thing that kind of doesn't really super come into play until you're in a performance situation. So you got these 3 categories, right? The mapping, this is learning pieces of music. Capacity, which is your actual technique, how good can you move your fingers? Can your fingers obey, right? And then reliability, which is, are you able to perform this stuff under pressure? Can you play it for other people? So let's break each one of these practice categories down, and I'll give you some of my favorite tips for how to handle each one of them. So if you're in the learning phase, if you're trying to learn a new piece of music, what I like to do is get it memorized as fast as possible, okay? So one of my favorite tricks is to not work from the beginning. Is I don't start at the beginning of the piece of music. I actually like to start at the end. There's a couple different reasons for that. The first reason is that when you start from the beginning, the tendency is anytime you play the piece of music, you're going to start from the earliest material that you know, okay? Let's say you learn the first measure, then you learn the second measure, you get those really, really good, feels good to play those. So guess what? Your tendency is going to be to play those first 2 measures over and over again, when you really should be trying to learn measures 3 and 4, which is going to be kind of harder. It's going to be more taxing for your mind to learn new crap than to, play music that's starting to sound good. Instead, what I like to do is I will take the end of the piece of music, learn, maybe a measure or 2 at the end, maybe a measure, it depends on how complex the thing is. Once I got that, then I'm going to move backwards and start with, the measures before that. What's good about this is that the stuff in the piece that you know the least is always the earliest stuff in the piece, right? Because I've learned 55 through 57, I know that really well. Now I have to learn 53 and 54, and this is the earliest thing in the piece of music. Now I'm going to learn all that stuff, string that together, and then start to work on 55 and 52. It just, for whatever reason, psychologically, it works better. It always front loads the stuff that is the stuff you know the least, and you're always moving into material that you know better. It works better than the opposite. If you start from the beginning, it's the opposite, where you're always starting with the material you know the best. And there's a tendency to want to just play from the start. You want to play the stuff that you know the best, and that means that most of your effort is going to be spent on all this material that you kind of already know. You end up doing more reps on that as opposed to moving on to the material that you should be practicing. But when you actually sit down to memorize, you want to actually start to memorize as fast as you possibly can. Do not look at the sheet, okay? The faster you can get away from the tab and just get it in your mind, so you can start working on that technique and everything, the better. So how would I actually tackle this? You first need to know what fingers to use and everything. I actually have the fingering written in here, but I'm going to start from just this measure right here, okay? Let's see here. I'm going to take the maximum amount of material that I can basically memorize instantly, which is probably going to be this right here, okay? Now, it is important that I make sure I know how I'm getting into this, right? Because okay, I can see that I have a bar here, right? I gotta go here. All right. Okay, so as long as I'm safe, as long as putting 2 and 3 down here are good, and I've checked the seam of the previous measure, I can start working on this. So I'm just gonna start. I want to play this a few times. Okay, try it a few more. And I'm immediately going to start looking at my hands. Okay, I'm going to try to look away from the sheet as soon as I can. There we go. So it's basically small enough that I can basically memorize it instantly. And I'm immediately thinking about, okay, what should I do with my right hand? Probably P-I-M-I, I'm gonna do that. Now I'm gonna move even further. So let's take another measure. So I'm gonna work on measure 55 here. Okay. Now let's see. I end with a 5 right here with the pinky, and then I'm gonna go on to here. Wow. Okay, that was a little too much. I think I need to look at the sheet again. I'm trying to get away from the sheet as fast as possible. And then when I get to a point where I'm not sure, I'm starting to forget, I'm going to struggle with it for a little bit. This is really important because this pushes the music deeper into your memory. It's actually necessary. Don't immediately jump to the sheet, okay? There we go. Now I struggled a little bit and I recalled it. That's really good. That's gonna push things deeper. Okay, cool. I'm starting to get that. Cool, that's working. Now I'm going to go back even further, and I continue to do this. So now, once I get semi-comfortable with this, and I can basically play it a few times without looking at the sheet, I'm ready to move on and learn more. So then, I'm going to go back and learn another measure, this right here. Then, I'll learn the previous measure. So now I've got the same amount of material memorized as I memorized before. So basically, 2 measures here, 2 measures here. I get these 2 measures good, I solidify it, then I try to combine it with this right here, right? So now I've learned 1, 2, 3, 4 measures. Then I'm going to go back and do the same thing over here. I'll learn this measure, get it good, learn this measure right here, combine those 2 measures. Every so often I'll go back and play this stuff, which I know pretty well by now, but I'm going to try to avoid that as much as I can and basically get this chunk of 2 measures, then maybe this chunk of 2 measures, then learn this chunk of 4, and then combine that with everything I've learned. And then I'm going to keep on working on, the piece of music until I basically burnt myself out and I'm freaking sick of it. And that's my session. So that's how I like to memorize stuff. Now let's talk about my favorite type of practice, which is technique. And we're going to use that Villa Lobos Etude 1 thing, to talk about this and to show you kind of how to handle this phase of practice. So let's say I've learned this particular piece of music, right? It's all mapped out. My fingers know what they have to do. I got to go P-I-P-I-P-M-I-A-M-A-I-M, blah, blah, blah. Is that right? Right. And I know on my left hand, I'm going to start with this. I'm going to do 3 and 4, and then I'm going to move to here, Let's say I know all that. But when I try to do this, my fingers I know what my fingers are supposed to do. I tell them to do it, and mistakes happen. Sounds I don't want to happen, or sounds I do want to happen, don't happen. And tension is felt in the hand, okay? So now we found ourselves a technical deficiency that we can potentially correct. Now, the first step is to isolate. We're going to isolate as much as we possibly can, okay? So we're going to find the problem. Is the problem in the left hand or in the right hand? Let's find out. What is the left hand doing? Oh shit, dude, pretty freaking easy. So the problem is probably in the right hand, okay? So we're not going to play the left hand. We're not going to get the left hand involved until the right hand is doing exactly what we want it to do in terms of the speed and the evenness and the relaxation, okay? Volume can come later, but I highly recommend getting the speed up and everything first. Let's isolate even more. So let's look at this whole section on the right hand. P-I-P-I-P-M-I-A-M-A-I-M-P. There's a lot of notes here, 4, 8, 12, 16 notes. So if I played at speed, I'm going to notice that there's my hand gets a little tight, the sound suffers a little bit, and you're going to try to pinpoint when that happens. We're trying to find the smallest amount of notes in this cascade right here that produce a problem, okay? So let's get rid of the first 4 notes. I'm just going to start from here, get rid of the first 4 notes and see what happens, all right? So that's P-M-I-A-M-A. Okay, you know what? I think I can count out the last 4 notes. I don't think I'm having a problem with that. So let's just try this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's hard. Okay, yeah, so there's something weird going on there, okay? So let's take it down even more. Let me just try these 4 notes. Let me see what happens. And actually, you know what? That actually feels kind of weird. For sure. Let me try these. What about AMA? Ooh, that might feel really weird for you. Now, I've worked on this quite a bit. So actually, the MAI, that feels kind of weird. Let's try these 5 notes. Oh, there we go. So that might, if you're feeling like you're making consistent errors and tensions building and stuff with only these 4 notes, guess what? Don't play the rest of the notes, okay? Because you're wasting your time. Yeah, okay. And even if you just play these 3 notes, maybe you run into an issue there with just the 3 notes. If that's difficult for you, then work on just those 3 notes. Because the more you can isolate, the more that you can get rid of problems and just focus on one problem, the faster you're going to solve that problem, okay? So for me, I think it's actually, now this is easy as hell. I-A-M, no problem there. The M-A-I, what actually makes this difficult is if I anticipate this M coming, right? So if I go M, A, and then I, and then the M has to come out like this, like that. So that's actually quite difficult for me, okay? So this is my technique practice right here. Just these 3 notes. If I do I and M or I-A, no issue whatsoever. If I do M and A, no issue whatsoever. If I add the I, all of a sudden I have an issue with this. It's starting to get a little bit better. But this is what I want to work on for my technique. And honestly, 90% of my practice is just working on the smallest possible chunk that creates the problem for me. And if you just repeat that and you try to keep it as relaxed as possible, I'm a huge proponent of the relaxation just because it's worked so well for me. So this is how I'm going to practice this. So I'm going to work on M-A-I, M-A-I, M-A-I. Yeah, M-A-I, M-A-I. and then I'm going to do it for maybe 10, 15 seconds, and I'm going to take a break. I'm going to rest, chill out, 10, 15 seconds, pop back into it. M-A-I, M-A-I. Never playing faster than what feels absolutely, totally comfortable. And one of the ways you can find out how to actually make it feel comfortable is actually to do the motion in the air. So don't actually put your fingers on the strings. You know, if you're especially, this works really good with the right hand. With the left hand, not quite as well. But if your issue is with the right hand, then you're going to want to do it like this. M-A-I, like this. M-A-I. Feel what that feels like. And then try to get your fingers on the strings and to mimic the feeling in the air. But do not imagine that you're even playing guitar. Just try to do this movement in the air. M-A-I, M-A-I, M-A, 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 M-A-I. Yeah, M-A-I. Yeah, and then I just try to maintain that exact same feeling in the air. Hit it for about 10, 15 seconds. Take a break, rest for about 10, 15 seconds. The mini breaks are tremendously important for building the technique because your brain actually processes it. It keeps working on it while you're chilling. There's all this like neuroscience crap on this, but it's highly, highly effective. And your hand gets to rest, it gets to relax. I come back to it. So that's feeling a lot better, right? Now, making technical gains on really tiny sections that are difficult for you is like the absolute most impactful thing you can do. The smaller the chunk is, if you have a problem with 3 notes and you solve that, it's such a small fundamental part of your technique. Being able to go M-I-A, that's going to crop up all over the place in other pieces of music. This is not going to crop up that often. You know, this whole sequence right here is not going to crop up very often. But little tiny pieces of it, like this AMA, that is going to crop up. And the MAI is also going to crop up. And then stringing these together, AMAI. So you want to try to isolate, relax as much as you can, take mini breaks in between, and that's the best way to get better at guitar, I think. Okay, so that's technique. Let's talk about the last one. Let's talk about actually performing. How do you get stuff reliable? There's a few cool methods. Now, I think that one of the biggest differentiators when it comes to performing is that you have to worry about blanking out. You have to worry about your memory of the piece. And until you're on stage and until you're in a situation where you really care about playing well, you kind of can't anticipate. I mean, unless you have a lot of experience with performing, it's just crazy how much that type of setting will affect your mind. And usually what happens to people is they start thinking way more than they usually do. So they got a piece of music that they're working on right now, you know, Cass's theme. And you start thinking things like, wait, where are my fingers supposed to go in this next part? Does my pinky go here? And then all of a sudden you're screwed, right? Because what you're doing is you're not relying on the muscle memory you've built. You're instead searching in places in your mind where the information does not exist anymore. I got this Cass's theme. And, you know, it's all muscle memory. If I just relax and let it happen, it's going to happen. It will happen if I can just get my mind out of the way and let the muscle memory take over, which I've trained so much. And that's ultimately what you have to be relying on to actually execute this stuff well. But in the situation of a live performance, I like to try to be a little bit more bulletproof when it comes to having the information in different places in my brain. What do I mean by that? Well, when you start learning a piece of music, a lot of it exists up here. You're literally, like, if I go back to that, what was I learning? The Lon Lon Ranch. I'm thinking in my head, 0, 0, 4. It's not quite in my muscle memory yet. It's kind of more here. It's more cerebral. And I really have to think. So what you can do is you can try to maintain that type of Memory storage. You can try to maintain that. One of the best ways is to play a piece of music really, really slow. One of my favorite guitar players, Grisha Goryachev, has a video on performing where he talks about playing music at like 40% speed. So, if the Villa Lobos, for example, is supposed to be here, you might play it at like a little slower than half speed. Not only is this great for like relaxation, your technique and stuff, but it's so slow. It's so slow that it will actually start to kind of you'll start to actually break up the muscle memory. You won't be relying on it as much, and you will need to rely on this sort of like cerebral type memory that you usually establish when you're learning the piece of music. That way, when you're actually playing the piece of music live, if you start to think thoughts like, hey, where's my finger supposed to go? Inevitably, because you're not supposed to think stuff like that, but you inevitably do. And there's ways to deal with that a little bit better. But you'll actually have the information there. You'll know the piece a lot better. So working at really slow speeds super helps with the memory. Another thing with performing is a lot of times you're playing multiple pieces of music in a row. So I do think it's quite important to do full run-throughs as if you're playing the performance and really to imagine what that's like. Sometimes setting up a recorder can help just feel a little bit of that pressure where you kind of want to do a little bit better than you normally do when you're sitting in your room, just drilling something. So recording stuff can kind of help put you in that state. When you're actually performing, I think it's really helpful to have a singular focus. So that might be something like, I'm going to make sure I just try to relax my right hand for this show, to have that be your focus. Or I'm just going to try to, I don't care if I play the wrong notes. I just want to play things on beat. That's my goal for this performance. Something like that can help pull your mind away from other less productive kind of nervous obsessions, like, wait, where does my finger go? Oh no, like, do I actually know this part coming up? Stuff like that. Instead, you can be thinking just trying to make sure every single note is on beat. Okay, and then that allows you to kind of release, maybe even relax a little bit more. That's helped me quite a bit. So hey, those are the 3 ways of practicing. And hey, by the way, if you want to work on your technique, which that's the thing I'm the most obsessed with, I have a free right hand course. It's 7 hours. I could charge for it, but I'm not. It's completely free. There's a link down below over in my free school group. Okay, it's pretty sick. We got the right hand course. Super sick. It's really going to help sort of establish the proper technique and show you kind of how I actually practice stuff. Get some real world experience doing that. Get your nails all set up and everything. And we also got all my tabs over there. Tab videos of everything I've ever put out. That's all freaking free. Smash that link down below if you're at all interested in that. And I bid you adieu. End of video now.